Thank you. It's good to see you this morning. And is there anybody here not from Crossroads? All right. Welcome. Glad you could come. And so I'm going to share a little bit. Blake did such an awesome job. I don't have to do a whole lot of introducing myself, but I do kind of want to do that. But before I do that, I'm going to throw out a question, okay, that I think would be apropos for our session, and that is, what comes to your mind, and we're going to participate with this. What comes to your mind when you think of the word coaching? Okay, just real quick. Pardon me?
Leader.
A leader, okay, good. Coaching, what else? Sports, good. Anybody?
John Wooden.
John Wooden, great. One of my favorites. I quote him all the time. Team, what else?
Teaching.
Okay, teaching, good. Does anybody have a negative connotation of coaching? Maybe if you've had a bad coach, right? Anybody have a negative? Okay. Whistles, gotcha. Okay, so let me kind of explain something to you. Because in organizations today, there is a little bit of a negative connotation in the realm of coaching. Some organizations use coaching as a place where you kind of send your bad kids, or your employees that aren't stepping up. And so, hey, go get some coaching. So in the context of some organizations, hopefully it doesn't sound like you have that experience, but I always try to clarify that because coaching is a very powerful, positive thing. And so I grew up my whole life wanting to be a coach. Several reasons. My love of athletics. Number two, my love of athletics, but my lack of athleticism. I knew I was not going to be a professional athlete. So the next best thing is to do what? Coach, right? And the third thing is, I grew up in a single-parent home. I lost my dad at a young age. And some of the most influential people in my life were my coaches, my athletic coaches. And so from that, I kind of formulated a concept of coaching that then carried over. When God called me to be a pastor, it kind of just transitioned right into my role as a pastor, and I've used coaching as a leadership principle throughout my career. So I do this thing, and we're going to interact with it. I do this thing called the 4A model of coaching, and here's what I believe with all of my heart. I believe that coaching is a part of leadership. If you're going to lead, you have to coach. And so, honestly, if you're a parent, you have to coach. If you have anybody in your organization that you're responsible for, you have to coach. And so I want to talk about coaching, and it's not that difficult. I'm going to give you some simple steps, some takeaways that I think you'll be able to use no matter where you're at in your leadership development. So a couple of, at the top of your outline, there's a couple of statements by some people that I learned a lot from. One is Richard Daft from the Leadership Experience, and he says, transformational leadership is characterized by the ability to bring about significant change in followers in the organization. So one of the things that I've always believed is that I've always believed that somebody can get better. That's just and it's actually a strength that is a weakness. Because here's something else I've discovered. As much as I believe that all of you and anybody that I ever come into contact with can get better, here's the thing that I didn't realize: not everybody wants to get better. Okay, but for those who really do, coaching makes a difference. Coactive Coaching is a great book if you're really into it, written by Laura Whitworth, and she says this: people come to coaching because they want things to be different. And so I'm such a believer in wanting people to get better. We're going through a whole organizational thing right now at Crossroads where we're learning together, growing together, and we're going to come out of it with some more coaching, but I'm a firm believer. So let's talk about it. It's kind of a great and easy model that I'm going to give you. Let's say, I've never coached before, okay? I'm going to give you the 4 steps to turn you into a coach, all right? Real easy to remember. Number 1, coaching begins with creating an awareness, all right? Creating awareness. Awareness is the first step in achieving transformation. I want to go back. When I was in Dayton, I was responsible, had a large staff, had about 35 people directly responsible to me. I had a guy by the name of Ryan. And Ryan was a campus pastor, and he was a very gregarious, outgoing guy. We had a lot of fun together, and we built a strong relationship. And so here's A is creating awareness begins with relationship. Okay, so you know, people make the mistake in coaching of going in and trying to fix something. So I'm going in and fix that, or I'm going to fix my child, or I'm going to fix my husband, I'm going to fix my wife, I'm going to fix my significant other, I'm going to fix this organization. But honestly, John Maxwell had it down when he said, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And there's a dynamic in relationship that I learned a long time ago. I had 2 different coaches, and I'll come back to Ryan in a minute, but I had 2 different coaches. I played football and basketball and baseball. And I had a football coach who took a personal interest in me. And when he would see me in the hall, he would pull me in his office, and he would just say, hey, how's things going, Rich? How you doing? How's your mother doing? He knew I was from a single-parent home, and he took a personal interest in me. But when I would make a mistake, you know, he would let me know it. And, you know, I say all the time to my team, I said, there's guys, Blake knows this, there's times when I'm going to put my arm around you, and there's times where I'm going to put my, okay? But understand when I do this, I'm going to probably come back in a little bit once you get it, and I'm going to give you a hug. So there's this relationship component. And so my high school football coach could do this to me. He could grab me by my mask, but because he had done this to me so much and cared about me, I really listened to him. I had a basketball coach, and I'm going to talk about assessment in a minute, but I had a basketball coach who all he did was he came in and all he did was evaluate. And he would evaluate the game, and he had all these statistics, and he had all these things that we would look at and we would go through. And you were a +8 in this, and you were a -47 in this, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? No one on our team cared about his numbers. Take your numbers, and, you know, it didn't matter because he never invested into knowing us as people, into getting to know us in relationship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about now the relationship to assessment, back to Ryan. So I got to know Ryan really well, but here's what was going on. I would come in and we'd talk sports, politics, everything else. We'd build a relationship. We had lunch together. I think I built his trust, and we came from a very dysfunctional organization that it had been filled with distrust. So we had to build a relationship based on trust, okay? Relationships are built on trust. So now we're trusting each other, but when he would come in, how'd it go? Oh, it went great, everything's wonderful, it was good, we did this, oh, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. You ever have that experience? It's all right, everything's good. And I said, oh, you know, the problem with this is, this can't be right. Nobody never has problems. So then we move to step 2. Creating awareness includes proper assessment. I like what Whitworth says here. While building trusting relationship lays a coaching foundation, it is assessment that reveals the client's level of competency. You ever know somebody you really, really like, but they're just not doing the job? All right, so now we had to get to assessment. So once I took Ryan through assessment, I said, Ryan, we've known each other here for 3 months now. Do you trust me? Yeah, I trust you. I like you, Pastor Rich. It's great working for you. You're the best boss I've ever had. I said, well, then tell me, why are you lying to me all the time? He's, wow. Nice effect. All right. He said, what do you mean, lying? I said, Every time we meet, when I ask you about your campus, you tell me everything's great, it's going well. But according to our matrix and according to our system, it's not going well. Your attendance is decreased, your giving's decreased, there's situations and issues of the morale is not high on your campus. We really need to get down to the nitty-gritty. So that kind of opened a door, and we began to work, and we began to go at it, and we began to make some changes. So coaching, first of all, has to start with awareness. Are you aware of what's going on in the people that are answering to you? Are you aware not only of who they are as a person, but are you aware of their competency level? Is what's happening in either it's your family or your organization, are you aware of it? Because you can't coach until you're aware of what's going on. So awareness now goes to action. So taking action is the next step. Because now that people are aware, you can be aware of something. Yeah, it's not going very well. How long have you known that? About 3 years. You know what? It may be time to do something about that. All right? So we're taking action at Crossroads because we're aware of some things that aren't working. We're aware of some things, some dynamics that need to be changed. You know, one of the things that they say about all organizations is really about every 2.5 to 3 years, your organizational structure should be reviewed and should be changed. And we know at Crossroads it hasn't changed in many, 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 many years. So we're looking at that. We're going, boy, we got to, you know, if Crossroads has a future, if we want to move where we want to go, then we're going to have to make some changes. And those changes, and how many know most people, even though they get excited about change, once they realize that that change is going to involve them, they're not quite as excited. So just be aware of that. So everybody talks about, yeah, this is going to be great to change, but when that change actually affects them, they're not quite as excited about it. So I want to talk about taking action as the next step. Two very important things. Number one, generate multiple solutions. Whenever you come into change, you want to generate multiple solutions. How are we going to do this? What's this going to look like? And the second thing is nail down a specific solution. When they train in training for Navy SEALs, a Navy SEAL what they'll do is they'll try to take one small goal at a time. And when you overwhelm people with multiple solutions, that what happens is, you know, you ever go into a store that has too many options? And you go away, there's just too much. I couldn't make a decision. Where you go into a store that just has one selection, you go in, you make your decision, and you leave. So what you want to do, and what I did with Ryan is I said, okay, let's talk about some solutions. What can we do? How can we fix this? I said, tell me about your campus, Ryan. He said, this. I said, what's going good? He said, well, you know, our kids' ministry is really going well. And his wife led the kids' ministry, and she's very gifted. And he said, we do well at worship. Well, he was the worship leader, very gifted guitar player, very good at worship. And I said, well, why don't you do this? Instead of trying to focus on all of these things, let's focus on two things, the two things that you're doing well. And this is a principle I believe that some of you are familiar with. It comes from StrengthsFinders. Oftentimes, the reason why people are frustrated in your organization, in your family, or in your whatever, is that they're trying to do things all the time that they're not that good at. People enjoy doing things that they're successful at. So you get a couple of wins under their belts, and they enjoy it, okay? And I coached a baseball team one time that had, you know, you got 9 guys on the field, right? And you usually have about 14, 15 guys total. And I had 2 baseball players. And I don't know what the other 12 were, but they were not baseball players. And so we had to find, what could we do real well? I tell this story all the time. It's a great story, and I think you can adapt it. So I went to a coaches conference, And the coach got up, and matter of fact, they're in the College World Series. It's coach's Louisville, Kentucky. And he got up, and he's a great presenter, different than all the other guys. And he kind of talked to us struggling high school guys, all right? And he said, most of you guys, you got all kinds of deficiencies. You're not good at everything. You might have one good pitcher. You might have one good hitter. And he said, but don't think that that's not true in every organization. He said, when I came to Louisville, we were not good at everything that we did. And he said, I decided to take one thing. What's one thing that we could do better than anybody else? And he said, I think we could do base running better than anybody else. Boom, a light bulb went off in my head. I don't have much pitching. I don't have much hitting. I got some kids that shouldn't even be on the team. All right? But most of them can run. They're not all fast, but they can run. And to be a really good base runner, you don't necessarily have to be fast. You have to be smart and you have to be aggressive. So we started doing base running drills every practice because kids, what are we doing? Why aren't we hitting? Why aren't we pitching? Why aren't we throwing? Because you can't hit, pitch, or run. Catch. But we can run. So we did base running, base running, base running, base running, base running. This is a true story. Then I taught this principle. Our staff knows this. I have this principle in life. Is this. If you hit a single and you go for a double, all right, if you go in head first, in other words, head first means if you go in with all of aggressiveness and determination that you're going to go after this thing, I'll never yell at you. I'll never criticize you. You'll never, when you're running off the field after getting thrown out, I'll never say, what are you doing? You've seen coaches do that, right? I'll never do that. I'll applaud aggressiveness, but don't get caught in between. Don't get caught in a pickle. Go aggressively for that. Our first game, no kidding. We come out, our kids they're hitting little singles and they're going for double. They're getting thrown out. Their parents are yelling at them and yelling at me. I said, no, it's okay. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. We're down 10-0, all right? All of a sudden, this base running thing starts to pick up. And it's like, you ever seen those little pinball machines where the runner just keeps on ding, da, ding, da, ding, da, pinball. That's, you don't play pinball, okay? Ding, da, ding, da, ding, da, ding, ding, da, ding, da, ding. We looked like a pinball machine, but the other team started throwing the ball all over the place. We won 24-23, and we had 5 hits on 5 hits. You know anything about baseball, that's ridiculous. Here's my point. What we did is we agreed to something, one thing that we could do. Ryan agreed to 2 things he could do. We can do really good at kids ministry. I'll do really good at worship. Their church began to develop and grow. So when you're coaching clients, you start with a multiple solutions. What's some solutions that we can do? All right? I still coach a little bit, not much, because I'm so busy, but I still have clients. I've got a bank president client that lives in Springfield, Missouri, and we did this with him. He was faced with this thing way up over his head, and we've got this, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, and we narrowed it down to 2 solutions. And I mean, they were facing legal issues. They were facing, like, this whole thing could fall through, and we just said, we better focus on 2 things. First thing that we focused on was this: we're going to tell the truth. We made a decision. We're going to be open with everything, with all of our shortcomings, with everything. We're going to tell the truth, and then we're going to deal with everybody in the organization that's not willing to stand by the truth. Those 2 things. That's all we did, and it was saved. It was turned around. So get some multiple solutions, then nail down specific solutions, okay? Number 3, accountability. I love this. So let's talk a little bit about accountability. Accountability, let me read this for you. Accountability is a proactive, voluntary commitment designed to preempt wrong behavior and supply energy for change. The purpose of accountability is to help the client stay on track and make a commitment to the standards he or she sets. Accountability is not just standing over somebody telling them what they're to do and what they're not to do. Accountability is helping your client or your whoever you're coaching stay true to what they said that they would do. Honestly, a huge amount of change takes place in our life if we would just do what we say we would do, not even what other people are putting on us. So I still coach both my sons. I have a 30-year-old and 25-year-old, and I coach them, but I actually coach them like I pull myself outside of my father thing, which is really tough. How many know that's tough? How many know parents like to tell their kids what to do? And so it's a lot easier for me just to say, hey, why don't you do this, this, this? But it doesn't work, all right? That answer has to come from them. Matter of fact, somebody said to me, you're really good at coaching. I don't think I'd be that good. I said, listen, you could be a really good coach. I can tell you how. Really good coaches know how to listen and how to ask the right questions. That's all it takes. If you can listen to somebody long enough, but, my tendency is, because I make my living being vocal and verbal, that's what I do every weekend, is I motivate people into the scriptures, and so my tendency is hard. I just feel like, man, I know the answer. When I'm sitting in with a campus pastor, I'm just like, I know the answer. What you're doing is stupid. Let me help you, But I have to, if the answer doesn't come from within, there's usually not long-term change. But when the answer comes from within, there's a long-term change. Okay, I get it. I understand it. So accountability is helping somebody stay true to what they said they would stay true to. They determine that. So here's a couple of things that I've learned that are helpful is be clear and specific, all right? Be clear and specific. Clear, okay, and specific, all right? And once again, this is so easy, but it's amazing how many times people can have discussions and walk away with no action and no accountability. So here's the three things I do when I ask for reports and updates. Here's what I want to accomplish, reports and updates. What will you do? When will you do it? And how will I know? So what will you do? All right, what will you do? So my son does media for us. Some of you have met him. So the other day I was asking him, when are you going? Here's what we need. We need testimonies because we've been having Victory Seed testimonies come in. So we need these videoed. We're looking for them. Okay, so that's the what. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to produce these videos. When? What's the timeline? When will you have them done? That tells me then when I can use them. How will I know? Okay? You're going to text me along the way. This is going good. This isn't going good. All right? That last one, by the way, is one that a lot of people leave out. A lot of people in coaching do, what is it you're going to do? When will you do it? But how do I know that it's done? All right? That's one area that just that little thing. How will I know? In other words, you're going to call me? You're going to text me? You're going to email me? How will I know that you're on this? Because listen, it's not, here's what I learned a long time ago. It's not what you expect, it's what you inspect is where you get your results. And so there's such a breakdown sometimes. But I thought, I thought you were going to have this done by, No, I didn't know that. You just said get it done. When? How? Okay. So accountability supplies energy for change, and we want that to happen. All right. Let me talk to you about affirmation because I think this is absolutely important. So any any Hawkeye fans here? Every now and then they creep in. How about Badger fans? Any Badger fans? All right. Any Michigan Wolverine fans? Okay, thank you very much. Not so much. Illinois? Yeah. All right. And the one thing that probably will lead to an immediate dismissal from this session, any Ohio State Buckeyes? Okay, good. All right, we're safe. Anyways, you ever watch a football game and see a little the Illini would probably be, I think they have tomahawks, don't they? Block eye. Okay, block eye. You ever seen that in high school? So what it is this. A kid does something extraordinary, or he makes a great tackle, whatever. Good job. Usually, typically on Monday or whatever this film session is, they're looking at it. Hey, you did well. You played well. You get this little sticker on your helmet. So here's the deal. Affirmation is huge when it comes to coaching. Very important that we affirm. Affirming the client includes recognition and encouragement when the client accomplishes the agreed upon goals. However, affirmation also recognizes, this is so important, recognizes the inner character of the person. Whitworth calls this acknowledging and states, acknowledgement is almost a context of coaching. At some level, coaches are always supporting who clients must be in order to make the changes they want. Now, hang on. This is really going to help you. Hargrove sheds more light on this subject when he says masterful coaches are not only a commitment to expanding people's ability. In other words, I'm not only there to make you a better whatever, but a commitment to do so in a way that expands their experiences of themselves. Let me put it this way. A coach gets the most out of people when the people know the coach believes in them. All right? Matter of fact, I just had this situation. We were doing all of this, and the client looks at me and says, "But do you believe in me?" I was like, wow. That's very interesting, isn't it? But do you believe in me? So affirmation, okay, I loved, I'm really geeked about this weekend simply because I love being a father. Being a father was just amazing for me because I lost my father. So having two sons was just like, wow. So I still do this to this day. Anything that I didn't have in my childhood or didn't own in my childhood, toys, equipment, fun, I always do it. I do it now with the excuses I'm getting that from my boys. It does, I've got train sets, I've got HO scale car tracks, I got everything, but okay. So, but I really love it. I tell this story. So I have my little boy, Jared. He's my oldest. He's 30. He's a lawyer. They're both living here in Northern Illinois. They were living in Virginia Beach. It's a crazy story. I won't bore you with it. But Lisa had a speaking engagement, and he's with me for the day. All right? And I'm driving around, and he's in the back, and I got a zillion things on my mind. I'm a pastor, run around, I got all these things to do. And he's like, "Where's Mama?" And I would go, "Well, she had a meeting." Oh, and he didn't hear me. So, "Where's Mama? Where's Mama?" I said, "Well, Jared, she's at a meeting." And finally he asked me again, and I just wasn't the good dad I should be. And I said, "She's at the meeting." It got really quiet, like deathly quiet, like I'm going, "Way to go, Dad." And all of a sudden, I looked in the rearview mirror. He's in his little car seat. That's how small he was. And he was playing with his little G.I. Joe, and he was going, my daddy said she's at the meeting. Like that. And I realized, man, how just very vulnerable we are as human beings. And oftentimes it's not what we're saying, it's how we're saying it that makes a difference in the people that we're leading. And so affirmation is a way Because I think sometimes, and I would do this over the course of raising my boys, I would correct their behavior, but also build up their character. You know? There's a belief system in people that resonates. People get it. They know. They understand. And you can't hide that, and you can't. The other thing I don't like a lot of super fluff. You know, it's been very difficult for me being at Crossroads, to be honest with you, because in the Northern Illinois culture, it's a very quiet culture. People don't always say up front what they're feeling. You have to drill down, drill down, drill down. And I say this all the time to people. People will either tell you or they'll tell somebody else. But people talk. It's just who are they talking to? I want my people to talk to me. I want them to tell me if they're upset about something, if they're troubled by something, if they don't like something. I can't fix what I don't know. So it is important that in the affirmation stage, that no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with, it can't be super fluff. Fluff doesn't work. You know, sometimes even as pastors, we always want everybody to think everything's great. And the reality of it is, everybody in life knows not everything's great. Life is not always great. There's challenges and difficulties, and sometimes our organization makes mistakes. And sometimes the people in our organization makes mistakes. And sometimes we can't always get on the same page. I get that. I didn't when I was a younger guy. I wanted everybody to love me and everybody to think I was great. And after a while I realized that's not possible. You just have to be yourself and lead and be as authentic as you can, be honest as you can. So when I affirm, typically I really mean it. You know? I'm not trying to manipulate. And I think trying to affirm somebody to manipulate them is very, very wrong. Because then you can't come back around and go, hey, I need to correct you. Because you've built that affirmation on a faulty principle. But even when somebody is struggling, you can still build up who they are as a person. You can build them up. I mean, you know, they may need to be a part of a different organization, but it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It may mean it's just not a right fit, okay? So affirmation, you have to come around to affirmation. On the other hand, I worked for a guy who didn't affirm anybody. His own insecurities caused him to never affirm anybody. And there are parents that don't like to affirm their kids or haven't affirmed their kids. And I say this all the time. People will go and they will find affirmation somewhere. As a parent, you should be the one affirming them, especially when they're doing good behavior. So affirmation is absolutely essential part of coaching. So let me give you a couple of things that I think are really interesting. You didn't put those up yet, did you, Randy? My last ones? Okay. These are very good, all right? And we'll kind of wrap up with this. Positive acknowledgement leads to repetition of behavior, all right? So you want a repetition of behavior? Yeah, I'll give you this. So when my son started playing soccer, my oldest son started playing soccer, his little guy, he was not fast at all. Matter of fact, he was slow. And you know how most of the time if you're running in athletics, if you're going to go to the left, you plant with your right and then you go like this. He never planted. He took corners. He'd be like this. And I'm like, son, it's going to take you forever to get there. All right? Like that. But instead of saying that to him, I just read the right book at the right time. And so, I mean, he's like 5 years old. What's the big diff, right? So I just told him he was fast. You say, well, were you lying? Well, yeah, sort of. But, I mean, compared to what, right? So I was like, man, you're fast. We're proud of you, you know. Now, those of you know me know that I'm not the whole fluff guy. I do keep score, all right? But you're fast. You're fast. You're fast. You're fast. Somehow that got into his psychic. He ended up being fast, real fast. Could have ran track. And I know that's biological. I get that. But I think there was some I think there's some psychological to it too, though. I really do. We become what we believe. Jesus said that. He talks a lot about, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So it's important to understand positive acknowledgement leads to a repetition of behavior. Whatever you want your people to do that's positive, you have to repeat that. Repeat that. John Wooden says repetition is the great teacher. So we say it over and over again. All right? Negative acknowledgement leads to unpredictable behavior. So you want negative employees, you want an unpredictable team, be negative all the time. Be negative. That'll lead to unpredictability. And thirdly, absence of acknowledgement leads to negative behavior. So you want negative behavior, never pat a back. Never encourage. Never lift up in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so what I like to do, where I think I'm my best is just spontaneously answering questions. So some of you, let me just ask a question. How many are coaching in some fashion or another right now? Somebody, someplace, sometime, all right? Probably, I think more of you are. You just don't recognize it. So questions. Somebody have a question for me? Something was running through your mind when we were going through this, and you're like, I'd like to ask that question. I'm going to answer that before I turn it back over to Pastor Blake. So any questions on coaching particularly that you might have? Janelle. I do, because in some organizations have certain standards by which they have to follow. But if I'm working with the client, first of all, we're together throwing solutions out, and then together we're narrowing them down to, I'll ask a question and say, typically a client will go, we could do this, and I'll say, would you really do that? Are you really going to do that? Do you really have time for that? Is that something that you can really accomplish? I'll write a book. Okay, really? Okay. So then we narrow it down into, and then the client or the coachee picks that one. All right. Good question. Anybody else? I see that hand. Randy. Say it again.
How can I, as an encourager and optimistic coach, build into someone or specifically say things in a way that will diminish the sense of patronizing on the part of the coach?
Okay, great question. I think first of all, emotional intelligence is huge. There's times where saying something to somebody is it's going to break them. They're at a point. Timing is everything. So timing for correction is important. And then I think it's relationship is the answer. If you have a good relationship with somebody, you can move from affirmation to, now let's talk about a hard issue. All right? If an organization is never talking about their hard issues, they're avoiding conflict completely. And if there's no first of all, there's always conflict. To say there's never, And nobody likes conflict, but the problem with is we haven't embraced conflict as our friend. And conflict is a friend. Because if you work through conflict, you'll work through a problem and you'll come to a solution. If you come to a solution, you'll get further down the road than you've ever been before. So when Lisa and I do marriage stuff with conflict, it's like, man, it's amazing how much people avoid conflict. But conflict's the first step. Make conflict our friend. But when it's an adversarial relationship, conflict's really hard, all right? But if it's a trust issue that's been built, are we recording this? Then I'm not going to say it. But there's people in my life who it's very easy to get really honest with quick, and then there's other people that I have to take more time with because of the sensitivities. Okay? But fluff never helps anybody, except for, I tell Lisa, on the way home Saturday, no matter how bad my message was, just say, baby, you're the best that ever was. And I know you're lying, but it's okay, I get it. Just keep on lying. Wait till Monday to tell me the truth, all right? Honey, you are the best ever, but you're getting to be the longest ever. So maybe you want to cut the, great, good question. Somebody else?
As a coach, you're working with them, and you're just starting to get that relationship with them, what is one thing you could give for a coach so that you can help encourage them to be able to get that relationship going?
Yep. The number one thing that will develop a relationship is number one, be a good listener, and number two, ask good questions. Masterful questions. All right, questions that take you a little deeper. I was asking Ryan, how'd it go? And he was like, great. I should have been saying, something like, what was your attendance? And then the second question is, do you have an attendance goal? Is there a reason why your attendance is not matching your attendance goal? Do you see anything? Are you feeling anything? How's your parking? How's your greeting? More than just a open-ended, how's it going? You got to ask some questions where they just can't, duck out of it. Asking questions is a skill. It really is. That's good though.
If creating awareness includes proper assessment, what models, do you have like a model or a form or something that you use for assessment
That was brilliant. I absolutely do. And good job, Blake. Brownie points. And so I've got something I'll hand out to you because I've used this now. I created it, but you can have it, copy it, and you don't have to give me credit. So could I have one, Janelle, real quick? And then if you would pass those out to everybody, because they can be used. It's so simple, it can be used in any capacity. But basically, I developed this for a church of 5,000 as a consultant. And I liked it so much, I brought it with me to Crossroads. And it's very simple because what happens sometimes when we're giving people supervisor positions that have never done it before, they're overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. So I back it up and I go, here's what you do. So what I would do with my team was every 30 days when I would meet with them, I would say, what have you been working on for the past 30 days? That's a great question. What have you been working on for the past 30 days? Mm-hmm. And you'll find out if what they're working on matches up with what your organization wants them to work on. What will you be working on for the next 30 days? This is simply a projection into, okay, now that I get them working on the right things, we're going to keep them there. What do you need from your supervisor? Very specific. What do you need from me? What part do I play in your success? How can I help you accomplish these things? Updates for my supervisor regarding goals and data. And then we just say, here's some updates I want to give you. Here's what's happening. Here's some goals that I set. Here's how we met them. Here's we didn't meet them. And it's just a great little tool. I actually still use this with my boys. If I go on a bike ride, we ride bikes. So I'll go on a bike ride and say, hey, what have you been working on the last 30 days? Oh, wow, that's good. That's good. That's good. I noticed you haven't mowed your lawn in about the last 60. Maybe your neighbors would appreciate. No, I don't do that. But, what do you got going for the next 30 days? And then little issues come up with that. Then they'll say, well, Steph and I haven't had a date night, or blah, 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 blah. It's just a way of me to help coach them. So that's the tool, and I thank you, Blake. You segued into that beautifully. Kudos. So I'm going to turn it back over to Blake.